You're not stuck, you've settled, and there's a big difference. Stuck means you're trying everything you can, you're fighting, you're pushing, you're reaching, but nothing is working. But most people who say they're stuck aren't really stuck. They just stopped moving. They've built a life around what's convenient, not what's possible. They're waking up in the morning with no urgency because they've accepted a life that doesn't challenge them anymore. They've convinced themselves that average is good enough, that showing up is the same as giving your all. But let me be clear, when you settle, you surrender your potential. You give up the fight before the battle even starts. See, settling doesn't always look like failure. Sometimes it's disguised as a job that pays the bills but kills your dreams. It's the relationship that feels safe but keeps you small. It's hitting snooze on your alarm over and over again because deep down there's nothing pulling you out of bed with fire. You told yourself you were just taking a break. You said you needed time to figure it out. You said you'd start next week, and now it's been a year, maybe more. That's not being stuck. That's being still. You used to have that hunger. You used to walk with purpose. You used to be uncomfortable with average. But something happened. Maybe life hit you. Maybe you failed once and decided you never wanted to feel that again. Maybe you looked around and saw everyone else moving slow and thought, why should I sprint? But let me tell you something, if you keep pacing yourself by the speed of those who have given up, you'll never reach where you're destined to go. You've settled into a routine that doesn't require risk. That's why you feel stuck. You've removed the challenge, you've traded growth for comfort, but nothing grows in a place where everything stays the same. You can't expect a different life if you keep waking up and living the same way. People think settling means choosing something bad. No, sometimes it's choosing something good when great was on the table. You didn't come this far to wake up tired of your own life. You didn't overcome what you've overcome to just sit down and coast. But that's what settling does. It makes you forget what you're capable of. It makes you stop chasing. It makes you numb to your own potential. And the scary part, you get used to it. That's the most dangerous part of settling. It feels normal after a while. You stop noticing the gap between where you are and where you could be. You're not stuck because life is against you. You're stuck because you decided this is good enough. You stop doing the hard things that push you forward. You stopped taking uncomfortable action. You stopped asking for more out of yourself. And that's what settling really is, giving yourself permission to live below the standard you were born to meet. You don't need permission to break out of it. You don't need a sign. You don't need someone to rescue you. You just need to remember who you were before you lowered your standards, before you made peace with staying the same. Before you convinced yourself that this was all there is, because deep down you know the truth, you're not stuck. You've just been sitting in the same spot for too long, calling it stability when it's really stagnation. Discipline is greater than motivation. That's the truth most people don't want to hear because motivation feels good. Motivation is sexy. Motivation is that loud voice in your head when you watch a video and you're fired up for 5 minutes, but discipline is quiet. It's consistent. It doesn't care how you feel. It shows up when you're tired. It works when you're uninspired, and that's why most people stay stuck, because they rely on feelings instead of habits. They wait for motivation to carry them, when in reality, it's discipline that moves you forward every single time. The reason you haven't made progress isn't because you're lazy or unmotivated. It's because you keep depending on the wrong fuel. Motivation is temporary, it runs out, it fades, but discipline is the decision to keep going when the hype disappears. It's waking up at 5 a.m. even though you slept 4 hours. It's going to the gym when your muscles are sore. It's studying when your brain wants to rest. Discipline is boring, but boring is what builds winners. Champions aren't built on fire and emotion. They're built on routines, on structure, on repetition, on doing the right thing over and over, even when nobody's clapping for them. You don't need another motivational quote. You don't need another podcast to get you excited. What you need is to stop negotiating with yourself. Stop letting your emotions vote on your future. Stop deciding based on how you feel in the moment. Because here's the truth. The version of you that will succeed doesn't care about how you feel right now. It cares about the outcome. It understands that pain now leads to power later. It understands that today's discomfort is tomorrow's breakthrough. The reason you feel stuck is because your feelings are in control. You let "I don't feel like it" become a valid excuse, but growth doesn't care about your comfort zone. Progress doesn't wait for your permission. You've got to stop making your grind optional. Discipline is doing what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. You think motivation is the spark. It might be, but discipline is the flame. Discipline is what keeps the fire going long after the hype is gone. And the people who win, they don't wait for the fire, they build it themselves. That's why so many people start strong and finish nowhere. They ride the wave of emotion for a few days, maybe a few weeks, and then they crash. Because there was no foundation, no structure, no discipline. You can't build an empire on emotion. You need bricks, daily bricks, laid down with discipline, not desire. Wanting success isn't enough. You've got to be willing to show up every day, even on the days you hate it, especially on those days. Stop chasing motivation. Start building discipline, because when the hype is gone, when nobody's watching, when the lights are off, discipline is what's going to carry you. It's what's going to keep your goals alive. It's what separates the dreamers from the doers. It's what pulls you out of bed, makes you say no to distractions and yes to progress. Discipline is freedom. Discipline is strength. Discipline is everything you think motivation will give you, but it actually delivers. You keep talking, but you're not executing. That's the real reason you're stuck. You've said it 100 times, "I'm going to change." You've told your friend. You've posted it online. You've written it down in a notebook somewhere. But let's be honest, saying it and doing it are not the same, and deep down you know that. You've mastered the language of ambition, but you haven't mastered the behavior that brings it to life. You've become a professional at planning, but an amateur at finishing. You've got the vision, but you're not putting in the work to make it reality. You say you want it, but your actions don't match your words. And the truth is, what you do always speaks louder than what you say. You can read all the books, watch all the motivational speeches, listen to all the success stories, but none of it means anything if you don't take action. You don't need more information. You need execution. That's the missing link. You think because you understand the strategy, you've already won. But understanding is not enough. Knowledge isn't power until you apply it. You've become a collector of inspiration, but inspiration without execution is just a fantasy. You're stuck because you're addicted to potential. You love the idea of who you could become. You're in love with the version of yourself that's successful, fit, disciplined, powerful, but you haven't committed to the process it takes to actually become that version. You keep making promises to yourself, and every time you break them, you train your mind to stop believing in you. That's the damage that talking without action causes. It steals your confidence. It chips away at your integrity. It builds a gap between who you say you are and who you really are. Execution isn't sexy. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's showing up every day and doing the work, especially when you don't feel like it. It's grinding when nobody claps. It's staying focused when distractions scream for your attention. You want people to believe in you, then start executing. You want respect, execute. You want to change your life, execute. There's no shortcut around it. There's no cheat code. Execution is the bridge between the dream and the result. You've got the talent, you've got the vision, you've got the opportunity, but you're wasting it because you keep procrastinating. You wait for the perfect moment. You wait for motivation to strike. You wait until you feel ready, but ready doesn't come, and that hesitation is why you're stuck. While you're talking about what you're going to do, someone else is out there doing it, and when it's all said and done, nobody's going to ask what you meant to do. They're going to look at what you did. So ask yourself, how many times are you going to say the same thing? How many more weeks are you going to let pass with no progress? How many more dreams are you going to postpone because execution feels uncomfortable? You already know what needs to be done. Now it's time to prove you can actually do it. Not once, not when it's easy, but consistently. That's what execution looks like. That's what separates the successful from the stuck. You're stuck because your circle is holding you back. You think it's about the goal. You think it's about the strategy. You think it's about not having the right tools or enough time. But in reality, it's the people you're around, the conversations you have, the energy you absorb every day without realizing it. Your environment is louder than your intention. You can be the most focused, most talented, most driven person, but if you're surrounded by small minds, by low standards, by people who normalize mediocrity, then eventually, you'll start shrinking just to fit in. You say you want to level up, but you keep hanging with people who are comfortable staying down. You want growth, but your circle fears change. You want excellence, but they celebrate the bare minimum. You're trying to fly with people who are scared of heights, and that's why you keep crashing. You think you're loyal, but what you're really being is limited. You're loyal to habits, routines, and people that no longer align with your purpose. And every day you stay in that circle, you train your mind to believe that just getting by is enough. Your friends should hold you accountable, not hold you back. They should be pushing you when you get lazy. They should be checking you when you start slipping. If you say you're going to wake up early and grind and you don't, someone in your circle should call you out. If you keep talking about dreams and doing nothing, someone should say, enough talk, it's time to move. But when everyone around you is just as distracted, just as inconsistent, just as stuck, who's going to push you? Who's going to challenge your comfort zone? No one. That's why the people around you matter more than you realize. Because whether you're aware of it or not, you're constantly absorbing their habits, their mindset, their energy. You hang with 5 people who quit easily, you'll be the 6th. You hang with 5 people who talk big but execute small, you'll do the same. But if you get around winners, if you get around grinders, if you get around people who don't make excuses, who wake up hungry, who are chasing greatness, your whole standard shifts, your pace increases. Your mentality transforms. You've got to be willing to outgrow your circle. It's not about thinking you're better. It's about knowing you were meant for more. It's about realizing that growth sometimes means separation. That progress sometimes means distance, that the next version of you might not be able to fit into the same rooms you used to sit in. It's painful, but it's necessary, because the longer you stay around people who don't challenge you, the longer you stay stuck exactly where you are. You don't owe anyone your potential. You don't owe anyone your progress. If the people in your life don't inspire you, support you, challenge you, then what are they really doing for you? Just because you've known someone for years doesn't mean they deserve front row seats to your future. Some people were only meant for a season, and if you confuse seasonal people with lifelong partners, you'll keep wondering why your life feels off track. Look around you, really look, because the people in your life are either pushing you forward or pulling you down. Excuses sound best to the person who's making them. That's why you're stuck. Because every time you don't follow through, you tell yourself a story that makes it okay. You create a reason that justifies the laziness, the fear, the procrastination. You convince yourself that it's valid, that it's not your fault, that there's a logical explanation for why you didn't show up, why you didn't give your all, why you didn't start again, and you believe it. Because it's easier to believe the excuse than to face the truth. You're not doing what it takes. You told yourself you were tired. You told yourself you needed a break. You said you'd start next Monday, next month, next year. You said life was busy. You said you had too much going on. You said you were dealing with too much stress. You gave yourself every reason not to do it, and now you've built an entire mindset around those excuses. You made them a part of your identity, and the more you repeat them, the more real they feel. Not because they are real, but because repetition turns lies into belief when no one checks you. You're stuck because you keep letting those excuses protect you from accountability. They become a shield between you and the truth that you're capable of more, the truth that you have time, but you're not using it right, the truth that your dreams are dying slowly, not because life is unfair, but because you keep choosing easy over necessary. You think the excuses are harmless, but they're stealing your potential one decision at a time. They're keeping you from your goals by giving you something soft to land on every time you fall short. Every excuse you make buys you comfort, but it costs you growth. It protects your ego, but it kills your results. You think you're being kind to yourself when you say, "It's okay, I'll try again tomorrow." But there's a difference between self-compassion and self-sabotage. Telling yourself it's okay to quit, to stop, to delay, to stay small, that's not being kind. That's keeping yourself average. That's making your fear feel like safety. That's turning weakness into identity. And eventually, you stop even seeing the difference between truth and excuse. You've got to stop lying to yourself. Stop making it okay to not be great. Stop rewarding yourself with pity every time you choose ease over effort. If you keep giving yourself an escape route, you'll never build the toughness required to level up. Winners don't entertain excuses. They feel the same pain, the same fear, the same pressure, but they choose to act anyway. They don't always feel ready, but they stay consistent. They don't always want to show up, but they do. Because they've trained themselves to be bigger than the excuses, their mind tries to feed them. And the scariest part is that the more you use excuses, the more they start controlling your life. They become your go, a response for everything hard. They show up every time you're about to do something uncomfortable. They rob you of your courage, your power, your momentum. You stop taking risks. You stop being bold. You settle into a life that's half lived because you've convinced yourself that everything holding you back is out of your control. But it's not. You're in control. You've just given that control to your excuses. You think you have time. That's why you're stuck. Because you wake up every day like there's a reset button waiting for you tomorrow. You move like life is unlimited. Like the opportunities you ignore will always be there. Like the version of you that's capable, focused, driven can just show up later, after you're done relaxing, after you're done scrolling, after you're done making excuses. But here's the truth, you don't have forever, and every second you waste acting like you do is another second you'll never get back. You keep saying, "I'll start next week," but next week turns into next month, and next month becomes next year. Before you know it, 5 years have passed and you're still in the same place, same habits, same struggles, same talk. You thought you were waiting on the right moment, but really, you were just afraid to move. And the scariest part, you started to believe that delay doesn't have consequences, but it does. Delay is the silent killer of dreams and time. It's the one thing you can't ever get back. You don't move with urgency because you think you can afford to wait. But what you're really doing is gambling. You're betting that tomorrow will give you another shot. You're betting that your health, your energy, your opportunities will still be there. You're betting that you'll feel more ready, more confident, more motivated later. But life doesn't work like that. Life doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards action. And if you keep moving like there's no deadline, life will remind you usually when it's too late. You don't get stuck overnight. You get stuck gradually, one delayed decision at a time, one "I'll do it later" at a time, one ignored priority at a time. You get stuck by choosing comfort over commitment, distractions over discipline, short-term pleasure over long-term power. And while you're doing that, someone else is using the same 24 hours to build something, to grind, to grow. The only difference between where you are and where they are, they understand the value of time. They don't treat it like it's infinite. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They move even when it's messy. especially when it's messy. You think your time will come. You think your moment is just around the corner. But moments don't come to people who wait, they come to people who prepare, who work, who show up even when they're tired, even when it's boring, even when nobody's clapping. That's how time rewards you when you respect it. When you stop assuming it owes you something, when you stop acting like you can waste it and still win, every second matters, not because you're in a rush, but because time is a resource you can't refill. You can't rewind, you can't get it back. Every excuse, every distraction, every lazy day, that's time you gave away, and once it's gone, it's gone. So while you're sitting there convincing yourself you're stuck, understand this: you're not stuck, you're just not moving with urgency. You're not stuck, you're just living like tomorrow is guaranteed.